Hey there and welcome back to Mass Effect 2. My name is Pete and today we complete a thorough trip to the Citadel after we just recruited the Krogan Grunt in the last episode. Now this episode is going to be a bit on the lengthy side, but over 2,000 of you voted to keep things in one episode, so that is what we'll do. Now, our upcoming trip to the Citadel that will serve three purposes. First of all, it will allow us to recruit another squad member because as you saw in the last episode I have installed the Kasumi Goto DLC. Then we will also be able to follow up on Captain Anderson's message and maybe talk to the Citadel Council. And lastly, we will be able to collect a ton of Paragon points on this trip.
No messages for you, Commander.
Before we get going though, we can have a quick chat with Kelly Chambers, because with Grunt now on board she has something new to say.
I don't know what to feel about Grunt. My psych reports refer Oak here. We have no guarantees that Grunt is mentally stable. I get the feeling he just doesn't care about anything, including who lives or dies.
And once again, we'll take the slightly more romantic approach here. After all, Kelly is the only woman who seems to be interested in Shepard at the moment, and so we'll make another suggestive remark here, even though Shepard is technically still with Liara.
Don't worry, Kelly. I wouldn't let him touch you.
If there's any touching being done, you'd better be involved. Anyway, what's up?
And that would already be all. I just wanted to keep that relationship afloat here, but let us now continue.
That'll be all.
It's always nice chatting with you.
Up next, we then have another conversation to listen to, right here between two of our squad members.
So, Hadley, how you gonna spend your next furlough?
You really think we'll have another shore leave?
Of course. Shepard's forming the best team this galaxy has ever seen. We're gonna kick some ass.
I'm sure you're right, Matthews.
Nice to see that we appear to have the squad's trust. Let's continue now and receive another small line from Joker.
You collect stray cats as a kid? Because we really needed a Mega Krogan, so thanks for dragging him home.
And we don't even have the option here to honor that with a response, so we can only ask about the situation in the cockpit once more.
I assume everything is going well up here?
It was until the thing started questioning my every move. It won't let anything slide.
You were deliberately falsifying maintenance reports, Mr. Moreau.
Not falsifying, tweaking. I always round up on task times. It makes us look good when we come in under.
Right, and even though it looks like it, there are no morality points to be had here, but that should not stop us from chastising the two. After all, we have much bigger things to worry about.
What is this, high school? Both of you, find something better to do with your time.
Of course, Shepard. It is a minor issue.
With a nuclear response.
Joker.
Shutting up now, Commander.
And that concludes this conversation as well, and we are now ready for our trip.
That's it for now.
See you, Commander.
Now, of course, there are quite a few more planets to discover in the Eagle Nebula that we're currently in, but for the moment we really have no need for any additional minerals, so sending out additional probes would be a waste of resources, and for that reason we will not spend significant time in the galaxy map here. Instead, we simply steer the Normandy towards the next mass relay, and then travel to the Serpent Nebula, which houses the Citadel. Conveniently enough, there is also only one single system with nothing else to discover, so let's initiate the landing procedure. Now, the squad selection doesn't really matter that much for this episode, but Grunt for me is a no-brainer because he hasn't seen any action so far, and we'll also take Morden because we have neglected him a bit as well. As a reward for the previous mission, we have leveled up again and now have 2 squad points to spend, but we'll use only one here and unlock Concussive Shot. You probably saw in the last episode how useful that ability can be, and we now even have 1 point left over. Since we can't spend that right now, we will have to wait for the next level up, with which we will then very likely grab the 3rd rank in Adrenaline Rush. Morden here meanwhile is maxed out for his current level, so there are no points to spend with him, and that brings us to Grunt. As with all squad members before him, we will use all 10 points here to max out his character-specific ability, the Krogan Berserker, which increases his health, weapon damage, and very importantly also his health regeneration. So Grunt functions more as a tank for the squad, and that is also reflected in the two options we have to evolve the ability, as Krogan Pureblood really emphasizes his resilience, making Grunt incredibly tough to take down, but also giving him an additional boost to weapon damage. Krogan Warlord, on the other hand, gives slightly reduced bonuses to health and health regeneration. Instead, it increases the weapon damage bonus a bit more. Now, with all previous characters, we always went for the more offensive-minded evolution, prioritizing damage output over damage protection. Grunt, however, is the exception for me, because his tankiness is the clear strength of this character, and I feel like we should embrace that as much as possible. Surely the weapon damage bonus from Krogan Warlord would be nice, but eventually we'll have him run around with a shotgun anyway, and at that point his main strength will be close-range combat, so he will likely not stay in cover as much as the rest of the squad, which makes Krogan Pureblood my preferred choice. In the end though, just like almost every other ability evolution, this is definitely not a make or break decision, so you can feel free to pick the other direction if Krogan Warlord sounds more like your thing. If we quickly switch back and forth, we can also see that Grunt's health is now correctly displayed as 525, his armor meanwhile is 300, which gives him not only one of the biggest layers of protection in the squad, but also by far the largest health pool beneath that. And with that, Grunt now becomes our #1 option for the front lines, and we can now skip weapon selection and set foot on the Citadel, where we will shortly be greeted by an interesting advertisement.
Commander Shepard, enter the password and receive a free gift. Got problems with collectors? Try Kasumi's credit services. Commander Shepard, we have the finest companions waiting for you. Perhaps something petite, smart, and Japanese would be your style. Just enter your password for a fabulous prize package worth millions of credits. Okay, really? How many times can you walk by without stopping? Shepard, you do have the password, right?
And yes, of course we do, so let's finally talk to her.
Please tell me your password, Commander Shepard.
Well, silence is golden was the password mentioned in the elusive man's message, but we can actually earn ourselves 2 free renegade points here by refusing to play along with Kasumi's games.
You know who I am, Kasumi. I'm not here to play games.
I heard you were hardcore, Shep, but I figured you'd be up for some intrigue. Kasumi Goto at your service. But you apparently already knew that.
Right, so let's start asking questions, and let's begin by asking her why she's being so cautious. After all, she seems to know exactly who she's dealing with.
What's with the password and the sneaking around? Are you in trouble or something?
I'm the best thief in the business, not the most famous. Need to watch my step to keep it that way. I also needed to make sure all this was legit. And I have no doubts now. You're the real Commander Shepard.
What makes you so sure?
There's a certain aura about you. Like you've seen things no one else has. Even without knowing what you looked like, I knew it was you.
Right, up next we of course need to know what she knows about the mission, and whether or not Cerberus has given her all necessary information.
Has Cerberus filled you in on the mission?
Honestly, I'm shocked they didn't come to see me sooner. My fault for being hard to find, I guess.
Okay, that's a bit vague, but it seems like she's up to speed, and that now leads us to a slightly more interesting question, namely how she and Cerberus got in contact in the first place.
What brought you to Cerberus?
That's a bit of a story. Short version, they were looking for me, so I trailed them to find out why. Turns out they were looking for someone to join you on an important mission, and were offering a serious signing bonus. I had a thing I needed help with, so I made them a deal. And here we are.
Now, the deal she just mentioned will play a significant role soon, and interestingly enough, the elusive man also did not mention it in his message in the last episode, but for the sake of 2 Paragon points, we will not ask about it right away, and instead wait for another opportunity which will present itself in just a second.
Good to have you along, Kasumi. You ready to go?
I travel light. I've already slipped my things aboard your ship. I'm really glad you're helping me out with the heist. Can't wait to see how you look in formal wear.
Right, so here we are. It doesn't really matter what we choose. The main point is there is apparently something that we have not been told yet.
I have a feeling you know something I don't.
They didn't tell you? And they call me secretive. I'm looking for my old partner's gray box. A man named Donovan Hawk took it, and I'm planning to get it back.
So, this seems to be the deal she and Cerberus have, but before we simply agree to take care of it, it can't hurt to learn a bit more. So, let's start with that grey box she mentioned.
I assume a gray box is some kind of hardware?
It's a neural implant. Illegal in most places. Stores memories, thoughts, secret codes, illicit information. This one in particular belonged to my partner, Keiji Okuda. We worked together for a long time, before Hawk killed him.
And that Donovan Hawk character does not sound like the most friendly guy. Still, having a bit more intel about him sure wouldn't be the worst thing.
What do you know about Donovan Hawk?
Mr. Hawk is a well-respected businessman. Arms dealer, murderer, generally not a great guy. His mansion's famous for being hard to crack, but I have a way in, and I think you're gonna love it.
I doubt Hawk's the kind of guy who takes kindly to people sneaking into his house.
I always expect trouble. That's why you're here.
Right, we can also ask about Kasumi's former partner here, and maybe that reveals a bit more about the origin or the contents of that grey box.
Tell me about this former partner of yours.
His name was Keiji Okuda, the best hacker and entryman I've ever known. Unfortunately, he slipped up and made himself infamous. He stole something he shouldn't. He warned me it was bad, something that could spark interstellar war if it got out. That information got him killed.
What could he have found that's so bad?
He wouldn't say what it was, just that it was dangerous. He said if it got out, humanity would be in trouble. He encrypted it, wrapped it up in his own memories. To decode the information, you have to sift through all the time we spent together. Now those memories are all that's left of him.
Well, and I think that is reason enough to want it back, an endeavor that we will likely get ourselves mixed up in as well.
I can understand why you'd want to get it back.
Getting it back will be easier with your help, Shepard.
Right, so with all the information about the parties involved, let's now ask about what the actual plan is, because so far we only know that we're expected to dress up for the occasion.
What's this heist you're planning?
Not here, Shepard. You'll get a briefing when the time comes. I need time to nail down the details anyway. I've taken the liberty of getting you some evening wear, though. You want to look presentable.
Okay, and that also brings this conversation to an end. There is nothing more Kasumi will be able to tell us out here, so let's wrap things up and assure her that we will be helping.
If that's what Cerberus promised you, we'll get it done.
It'll be fun. And if we're lucky, you won't even have to draw your gun. We should probably wrap this up. You look pretty silly standing there talking to an advertisement. See you on the ship, Shepard.
And here we are with another squad member and another mission obtained. We also received some information unlocking a few codex entries, and we also got ourselves 2 Paragon and 2 Renegade points. Up next, we will now get a few lines out of Morden regarding the Keepers, and afterwards listen in to what is one of my top 3 random NPC dialogues in the entire franchise.
Keepers. Fascinating creatures. Genetic constructs adapted to work in Citadel. Couldn't survive outside. Unknown purpose. Wish I could have studied them. Had other things to do instead.
Right, and now let's learn about the Ferrous Slug.
This recruits is a 20-kilo Ferrous Slug. Feel the weight! Every 5 seconds, the main gun of an Everest-class dreadnought accelerates 1 to 1.3% of light speed. It impacts with the force of a 38-kiloton bomb. That is 3 times the yield of the city buster dropped on Hiroshima back on Earth. That means Sir Isaac Newton is the deadliest son of a bitch in space. Now, Serviceman Burnside, what is Newton's first law?
Sir, an object in motion stays in motion, sir.
No credit for partial answers, maggot!
Sir, unless acted on by an outside force, sir.
Damn straight! I dare to assume you ignorant jackasses know that space is empty. Once you fire this hunk of metal, it keeps going till it hits something. That can be a ship, or the planet behind that ship. It might go off into deep space and hit somebody else in 10,000 years. If you pull the trigger on this, you are ruining someone's day, somewhere and sometime. That is why you check your damn targets. That is why you wait for the computer to give you a damn firing solution. That is why, Serviceman Chung, we do not eyeball it. This is a weapon of mass destruction. You are not a cowboy shooting from the hip. Sir, yes, sir.
And with that out of the way, we can immediately listen in to another conversation.
I'm sorry, sir, but I'll need you to remove any biotic amp you might be wearing.
What? Why?
Unfortunately, sir, biotics can be used as a weapon. The rules require me to confiscate all amps. Could you please hand over yours?
I don't have one. I'm not a biotic.
Oh. Well, when you objected, I thought...
You humans are all racist.
Can I help you, sir?
Now, we don't necessarily need to talk to her, but from what we've heard just a moment ago, security seems to have increased a bit, and maybe she can tell us why.
It's been a couple of years since I passed through here. Security seems to have tightened a bit.
After the Geth attack, there was a review of security protocol. A few minor changes were made to reduce the risk of Geth infiltration. We apologize for the inconvenience.
Well, as long as it doesn't inconvenience us, I think we'll be fine, and that is also all the information we can get here.
Thanks for your time.
Next.
What is this crap?
Shut it down. What? Do you seriously think? Yeah, okay. Sorry for the inconvenience, sir. Our scanners are picking up false readings. They seem to think you're dead.
Well, that is hardly a surprise, to be honest. Still, now that we've been caught on the scanners, there is really no denying it.
I was listed as missing in action a couple of years ago.
Would you mind checking in with my captain? He can reinstate you in our system. He's just past the scanners on your right.
You'll have to make him scream a little. He's not gonna tell you everything just because you ask.
I know, sir.
If you don't have the stomach or you're worried about being reported, I can take care of it.
No, sir. I can handle it.
Alright, interesting conversation between these two, we'll keep that in mind, but let's get our personal business sorted out first.
Yes, I see the problem already, Commander Shepard. My consul says you're dead.
Well, of course we're all for trusting technology. Still, one might wonder why C-Sec here is not performing additional background checks, especially considering how, to their knowledge, we should not even be alive.
So you're not worried I'm some imposter claiming to be me?
We have the best screening equipment in the galaxy. Those scanners can sample DNA from skin flakes. Hell, if you have unregistered gene mods, they can even figure those out.
Now we have a choice to make. We could officially stay dead, or we could have our personal profile reactivated. And we will opt for the second approach here. After all, we were a Spectre before we died, so that hopefully comes with a few perks. And then again, quite a few important people already know that we're back among the living, so rumors are probably spreading already, so I don't feel like there is any need to hide our identity any longer.
Your sergeant said you could help with that.
Usually you'd have to go through the station security administration to reactivate your IDs. Then to customs and immigration to regain access to the Citadel itself, and probably a stop by the Treasury. Spending a year dead is a popular tax dodge. But I can see you're a busy man. So how about I just press this button right here, and we call it done?
And of course, that seems a bit shady, especially when it comes from a C-Sec captain.
Couldn't one of us, or both of us, get into trouble for that?
There's no way to fool the DNA scanners in that tunnel. You're you. Why wait in long lines and fill out a massive useless hard copy paperwork to get to the same place? The Council does everything by the book. They've had thousands of years to write it. Sometimes things need to get done without a committee vote.
And we can now once again make a short remark regarding the legality of things. This will not earn us any morality points, but eventually get our ID reinstated.
You're not big on formalities, are you?
I'm with them right up until they keep people from doing their jobs. There. I just saved you about 9 days of running around. That said, you should head up to the Presidium and tell them you're still alive. The Council probably wants to talk to the one who saved their scaly asses.
And conveniently enough, that is also already on my to-do list, but while we're here, we might as well ask for directions.
What's the easiest way to get to the Presidium from down here?
Head back through the security checkpoint and take a public shuttle.
Well then, I suppose we'll do that, however, not necessarily right away.
I will. Having access to the Council and the Spectre's resources would be useful.
Yeah. The Council can get anything. Best thing about working C-Sec is that any equipment, information, or money you need, you get. Anyway, something else you need? Or can I get back to work?
Now that we have taken care of our personal business, we can ask a few more questions, and since we haven't visited the Citadel in quite a while, and since we also don't know this area from Mass Effect 1, let's ask about the very location that we're in.
Tell me about this place.
All the wards are more or less multicultural, but the other four are dominated by Asari, Turians, or Solarians. In Zakera, we've got major enclaves of Volus, Elcor, and Hanar. There's also a human commercial zone at Shinakiba. We've got a few Krogan walking around, and I think I saw a Quarian the other day.
Right, so it seems like things out here on the Citadel are comparatively prosperous, which is certainly interesting considering how much damage was done to the Citadel in Sovereign's attack 2 years ago.
It looks like most of the damage from Sovereign's attack has been repaired.
The Presidium was pretty shot up. Of course, they fixed that first. All the wards got hit with debris when the ship exploded. Most of the damage was superficial, and the Keepers got things restored fast. Tasery Ward got the worst. A big chunk hit near the Dillanaga concert hall. They're still clearing wreckage and trying to get power restored.
Now, despite things being rebuilt pretty fast, we also see a few changes, namely the increased human presence within CSEC.
Last time I was here, there were no human captains in CSEC.
The CSEC took a lot of casualties when the Geth boarded the Presidium. The Special Response Division was hard hit. They stopped turning their noses up at human resumes. They needed bodies in uniform, and we had the most experienced bodies.
Right, and now let's get back to that conversation we overheard earlier, which seems to have dealt with, well, torture to some extent, and that might be reason enough to be concerned.
I overheard your conversation. Make him scream a little?
This isn't the Presidium. All they have to worry about are protesters outside their free speech zones or someone's poodle crapping on the grass. Down here, we have drugs, organized crime, and murder. Policing a ward is like policing New York City. Sometimes you have to work outside the Council's rulebook.
Now, unfortunately, we don't have any option to give our opinion on the matter, so all we can do is leave the Captain be and start exploring the Citadel.
I should be going.
You need anything else, let me know.
With Avina, a familiar face from Mass Effect 1 makes a return, and just like in the previous installment, she remains a very good choice to get up to speed on where we are and what's going on.
Welcome back, Shepard. It has been 2 years, 3 months, and 17 days since the Citadel last welcomed you. This is the Zakera Ward Transportation Hub. Public shuttles and shopping are available through the CSEC security cordon.
Now, she mentioned shuttles, and according to Captain Bailey, that is what we have to take to meet the Citadel Council, so maybe Avina can tell us where we can find those shuttles.
I need to talk to the Council. How can I reach the Presidium from here?
Public transit shuttles are available on the far side of the CSEC security cordon.
Right, I suppose we'll find those easily. So, just like we did a few minutes earlier, let us now talk about the increased security presence, because honestly, it's a bit hard to see the connection between Sovereign's attack and the need for increased security right here on the station.
There seem to be a lot more CSEC officers than the last time I was here.
In the wake of the Geth attack 2 years ago, additional security precautions were implemented for the safety and security of residents. In addition to increased CSEC patrols, weapon carry restrictions have been tightened.
Now, we have the option here to leave a snide remark, but that wouldn't give us any morality points, and since Avina is likely not suited to handle such a remark anyway, let's simply ask about the effects of that new policy.
So has crime decreased?
Violent crime has decreased by 23%. Property crime has decreased by 41%. Incident clearance has improved by 16%.
Well, that is of course good to hear, and all things considered, it does indeed seem like the Citadel has recovered nicely.
It looks like this place has recovered from Sovereign's attack.
Repair of the damage from the Geth attack is ongoing. There is still extensive damage on Tasery Ward.
Geth? It was Sovereign who led the attack. A Reaper.
I have no information on a Reaper. References to the term exist in some parahistorical theories on galactic extinction cycles.
Memetic engineering. Council blames Geth. Lies to cover up Reapers. Keeps public from panicking.
Well, if we're being honest, an answer like this was to be expected, so let us now switch topics to something less controversial.
What stores are available on this level?
Only one store exists on this level. Citadel Souvenirs offers licensed mementos of your visit. Their line of starship models is well regarded.
Well, in any case, we will make sure to check it out, and with that we can now leave this conversation.
That's all for now.
Thank you for using Avina. Have a pleasant day.
And our next stop is then in fact Citadel Souvenirs. Let's see if we can find anything of value here.
Good day, my friends. Welcome to the Citadel.
Now, immediately we notice that we have a Charm and Intimidate option available to us, which we could use to obtain ourselves a discount. That is of course a smart approach, but before we do so, let's first ask about who runs the place.
These stores are owned by the Citadel, right?
That's correct. Citadel Souvenirs outlets are owned by the Council government. The profits generated by sales are used to maintain the station. We offer an assortment of decorations suitable for display in your personal quarters.
Right, that certainly sounds intriguing, and maybe she can also tell us how we would go about making a purchase.
I'd like to buy something.
My apologies. I do not make sales. I'm here to answer questions and process returns and exchanges. To make a purchase, browse our electronic catalog over there.
Right then, before we check out that catalog, time to get ourselves the discount first, and of course we'll use the charm option, which will give us 5 Paragon points.
Since these stores are owned by the council, do government employees get a discount?
Yes, in fact. What's your position?
I'm a former Spectre.
My goodness, I didn't know Spectres quit. I don't believe you qualify for a discount, though.
How about if I throw in an endorsement from the man who defeated Sarah?
You are Shepard? My goodness. The increase in sales would certainly be worth offering a discount.
What do you need me to do?
Just voice your endorsement into my console.
I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite store on the Citadel.
Excellent. I will get my clerical VI to add it to our advertising immediately.
And here we are, time to start shopping. The first item on the list here is the Space Hamster, and despite the fact that it is pretty pricey, we will buy one anyway. This is a completionist playthrough after all, and the Space Hamster will actually have a few minor appearances in Mass Effect 3. The Ilium Skullfish then is needed to fill up Shepard's aquarium back on the Normandy. It is the first of 3 fish we can purchase in this game, and of course we want to complete that collection as well. Speaking of collections, another one is the ship model collection. We already own 3 of these and can now purchase 2 more, and all that unlocks a few more codex entries and completes our business here in the souvenir shop.
So do you want to get one of the fish, or maybe a model ship?
How is a model ship supposed to remind me of the Citadel?
It's festive, and you like ships.
I'm an engineer, honey. I look at ships all day.
One more ship model will become available here at a later point in the game, but for now we can listen to 2 Krogan.
I heard that those lakes up on the Presidium are filled with fish.
No, they're not.
You ever been up there?
No. CSEC won't let me. They say I'm a risk.
They think every Krogan is dangerous.
Damn Turians. We should kill them all.
Now, as you might have noticed, by listening in on these 2, we have just obtained another small mission, and that is to find out whether or not there are actually fish in the Presidium lakes. So we will ask around if we get the chance, but for now our tour continues, and it brings us from Zakera Ward's level 27 to level 28, which among other things contains the Rodam Expedition shop.
What can I do for you?
And once again, the already familiar Charm and Intimidate options are available, but let's get to know the place a bit better before we use those.
Tell me about your services.
We sell quality hunting supplies, which you'll need when you purchase one of our adventure travel packages. Imagine it, human. The break of day. You and your team have been stalking a Shafa for 5 days. In that time, it's killed 4 men. You see it? Line it up. Take the shot. Blam! It's down. You're the hero. That's what we offer. Not a vacation, but an experience.
Now, we learned earlier from Avina that there are weapons restrictions in place, and of course one would assume that this hurts this guy's business quite a bit.
I thought weapons were restricted on the Citadel now.
Carrying them around is. Selling them isn't. We store them in off-site containers and deliver them to your ship. People who have permission to carry, like CSEC, can walk out with them.
And since no one has stripped us of our weapons, I assume we have those same permissions as well, so we might as well add to our arsenal.
I'd like to buy something.
Try our electronic catalog interface. That kiosk over there.
And another merchant points towards the catalog, which of course begs the question what he's actually doing here, considering that he doesn't make any of the sales.
If everything's done by catalog, why are you here?
Rodham believes in salesmanship, the personal touch. Some say we're old-fashioned. We recognize that adventure traveling is a niche, a small, tight-knit community.
Alright then, time to get ourselves 5 more Paragon points and the store discount, even though we're not going to buy much here.
Your expeditions might be a little tame for me.
Tame? A human can hardly take down a Pharaoh Varen, let alone a Shatha. Who do you think you are?
Well, my name's Shepard, and...
The Shepard? The one that put down Saren Arterius?
Oh, you do know me.
By the spirits. Shepard, in my store. I don't suppose I could convince you to record an advertisement for me.
Sure you could. Can we work out a discount?
A discount? I'd name my firstborn after you if you ask. Can we record it now? Just speak towards my console.
I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite store on the Citadel.
Ha ha! No other gun shop has that kind of endorsement.
And here we are, time to see what's for sale, and we can immediately see that we don't have enough credits for most of it. That is okay though, we will return here eventually, but for now we will purchase what we can afford. We start things off with the offhand ammo pack, which gives us just a bit more ammunition to work with, and should prove to be useful for pretty much every weapon we have. The Aegis vest then is something we'll buy, mainly because it's cheap and for completionist purposes. I have not yet decided whether or not we'll actually wear it, but now we have the option should we ever need a slight health boost.
So what do you think? Maybe a shotgun?
I like the assault rifle. It's like a non-stop barrage of death.
If you can hit anything.
Right, and now we can begin exploring level 28, which mostly consists of short bits of dialogue as well as another interesting advertisement.
Have you tried Galaxy of Fantasy yet? I love that game. It's based on Turian mythology, but it's really fun. I hear it has 11 billion players now. Do you have any games you'd like to trade in? You get 2 credits toward a new game. You know what's good? Alliance Corsair. The battles are pretty realistic, but it's still fun. And you can install it on an Omni tool.
Shepard, you've recently been dead. Don't you deserve the quality and distinction of a traditional Asari burial robe? Anata's mortuary offers the finest quality burial robes, hand-spun by skilled Asari artisans. Anata's will help you leave a good-looking corpse.
With this ad listened to, we can now make our way over to the far corner of the area, where we will meet an old acquaintance.
The people want to hear your story, Shepard. Khaleesa bint seen in Al-Jalani, Westerland News. I interviewed you 2 years ago when you first became a Spectre. You presented your case very well on camera. Do you have a minute?
Well, in case you don't remember that interview from Mass Effect 1, her questions were pretty critical, I'd say. Others might call them outright hostile. In essence, she tried her best to make us look bad, and we will now do our best to remind her of that, because it also nets us 2 Paragon points.
What, so you can try to do another smear job on me?
Now, Shepard, you may object to my methods, but we're on the same side. You're back, you're news. I just want to give your story its due. Sources claim you were at the heart of the Presidium during the Battle of the Citadel. It's fair to say the course of the battle hinged on your words. If true, you told Admiral Hackett to assist the Destiny Ascension, costing hundreds of human lives, and securing the continued dominance of the Citadel Council.
Now, we skip the Renegade interruption, even though I admit it was tempting, but we'll go with the Paragon approach and make her see that things are not as easy as she tries to make them seem.
The Turians lost 20 cruisers. Figure each had a crew around 300. The Ascension, the Asari dreadnought we saved, had a crew of nearly 10,000.
But surely the human cost.
The Alliance lost 8 cruisers. Shenyang, Emden, Jakarta, Cairo, Seoul, Cape Town, Warsaw, Madrid. And yes, I remembered them all. Everyone in the 5th Fleet is a hero. The Alliance owes them all medals. The Council owes them a lot more than that. And so do you.
Commander Shepard, first human Spectre. Hero of the Battle of the Citadel. Check bid. We get it? Great. Bull rushed on my own show.
And with that, we receive 7 Paragon points for our efforts. We have presented ourselves quite well, I'd say. With us speaking up, the galaxy should now also be aware that we are in fact back among the living. And with that, I'd say it's time to get ourselves a drink.
What'll it be?
And let's also feed the cliché here and ask the bartender for local news.
Hear about anything interesting going on around here?
I serve drinks. You want to know what's going on? Check the news. I don't know why humans always ask me that.
Well, in that case, let's see what's on the menu.
I want the strongest thing you have.
Easy enough.
It's green.
And guaranteed to knock you on your ass. Unless you're dextro DNA like me. If you are, it'll kill you. Anything else?
Right, the green stuff already looked promising. How about we have ourselves another one?
Let's have another one.
There you are. Anything else?
Well, Shepard seems to be still standing, so one more of the green stuff can't hurt.
Not done yet.
I'm impressed. I've never seen anyone drink 3 of these. Anything else?
Right, I think we can tolerate one more. Let's see if he has anything to top this.
Hit me again.
How about we mix it up a little? This is genuine Batarian ale, uncut. Don't ask how I got it. I've been serving here 8 years. I've never seen anyone have this and stay on their feet. Anything else?
Well, it didn't look any different, and Shepard is still going strong, so let's have one more maybe.
Do it.
Okay, for you, something special. This is Krogan liquor, Rincall. You'll set off radiological alarms after you drink it. Should I pour you a quad?
Well, I'd say there is no backing out now. After all, what's the worst that could happen?
Oh yeah, put more of the stuff in the thing where stuff goes in.
Your funeral, pal.
Well, looks like that didn't work out quite as expected, but at least we have now visited the restrooms of the Dark Star Lounge as well. Of course, we will not spend any more time here though. Instead, we can have a chat with the Presidium groundskeeper, who currently seems to be off duty.
Something I can do for you?
And he looks to be the guy to talk to if one was wondering about fish on the Presidium, so let's ask him about that and maybe get an answer for the Krogan.
I noticed you're one of the groundskeepers for the Presidium. Do you know if there are fish in the lakes?
I get that question a lot. I think it's right behind where's the restroom. Those are reservoirs, the Presidium's own supply, independent from the water storage tanks in the wards. The only place I know of on the station to get a live fish is Delea Sonesi's gift shop.
Now we can ask about the gift shop even though we have already been there, but the groundskeeper will still provide us with a few interesting bits of information.
Where's that gift shop?
In the market downstairs from the bar. Delea sells aquariums. Fish are the largest pets most station residents can get a permit for.
Now back to the Presidium lakes though, because the groundskeeper just called them reservoirs, which is certainly interesting considering how they are very accessible to the public.
When I pour a glass of water, it's the same stuff that tourists throw garbage in?
No, they purify it first. If some Solarian or human bacteria gets left in, and a Turian or Quarian drinks it, they could die. Everything would be so much simpler if we all had the same DNA. But no, the universe loves diversity.
Well, we're not going to comment any further on that. After all, we have what we came for, and so we can now make our exit.
Thanks for your time.
No problem. If you get up to the Presidium, check out the DeMaio flowers across from the conduit. They're coming in very nicely.
That is now almost everything we can do here on level 28. Only one more stop remains, and that is a quick chat with Avina.
Welcome. The Zakera Ward Promenade offers upscale shopping and entertainment options for the discerning visitor.
Now, she mentioned both shopping and entertainment, so let's ask about both in that order.
What stores are in this area?
Rodham Expeditions sells high-grade weapons as well as adventure travel packages to the galaxy's most dangerous destinations.
What entertainment options are available?
The Dark Star is a small but popular night spot offering intoxicants, gambling, and exotic dancing.
Right, that wasn't really a whole lot of new information, and this now also concludes our business in this area of the Citadel, so let's return to level 27.
That's all for now.
Thank you for using Avina. Have a pleasant day.
For 10 credits, we offer data protection for any game we sell. If the copy protection ever malfunctions, you can download a new copy free.
Well, that certainly sounds like an interesting business model. However, this is of course not the time nor the place to get deeper into that discussion. Instead, let's resume our investigation efforts. After all, we did find an answer to what the Krogan were wondering about, and maybe they show themselves thankful if we share that with them.
What do you want?
Before we tell them the cold hard truth though, let's ask them a question, because whether or not there are fish in the Presidium lakes seems like an awfully strange thing to worry about.
Why are you so interested in fish from the Presidium?
It's so decadent. Eating a fish from the Presidium would be like screwing Shaira.
Ugh, sorry you're so squishy. Where are you supposed to get a decent grip?
Now, very interestingly, we have the option to lie to them here because we just bought a fish from the souvenir shop. However, A, I would like to keep that fish for myself, and B, it would give us renegade points, so instead we'll go with the truth and 5 paragon points.
I talked to one of the Presidium groundskeepers. He said there aren't any fish in the lakes.
What?
I told you.
Why have all that water if you're not going to store something to eat in it? I don't understand aliens at all.
Thanks for telling me. It's all he's talked about all damn day.
Alright, and this actually counts as a small quest, so we earned 40 experience points for completing it, as well as 1000 credits, which this ad is asking us to invest almost immediately.
Shepard, are you looking to continue your education? It's one thing to know how to shoot a gun, but do you have the career skills to deploy and manage today's high-tech network infrastructures? The Henley Technical Institute can help. Courses available through our extranet site will put you on the path to success. Visit our site now at keywords Henley Technical Education.
Now, it would be funny if we could actually buy something from these advertisements, but sadly we cannot, so let's enter the Zakera cafe.
I hear this is the best place for food on Zakera Ward.
You heard wrong. This is the best place for food on the whole damn Citadel.
Well, if that's the case, we should definitely make a purchase here, because our cook back on the Normandy was asking us for high-grade provisions, and look here, that is exactly what the cafe has for sale. This right here, by the way, is also the only shop on the Citadel where we cannot obtain a discount, but of course that should not keep us away from also buying the Ascension and the Revelations novel, which don't do much in terms of gameplay, but both unlock a codex entry, so they are necessary if we want to achieve full completion.
The Destiny Ascension has completed its 20-colony victory cruise. Council members aboard thanked Human Alliance soldiers for their efforts in repelling Saren's invasion 2 years ago.
Alright, a bit of news to keep us entertained, and we'll listen to another piece later on in the video. For now though, we can head down to level 26 of Zakera Ward, where a few more very entertaining conversations will take place.
Greetings, Earth Clan. You will find many excellent ships for sale here. Only slightly used, yes. With our Unification Day special, you can get up to 2,000 credits back. Such a deal. Could I interest you in a Turian Esquirine sporting shuttle? Unmatched acceleration, peerless maneuvering, and like all Turian shuttles, it can fit a light mass accelerator cannon. Perfect for heavy traffic. I offer a no-money down lease on my quality used ships. Ah, I know. Perhaps one of our light haulers? I have several Kowloon modular conveyors available. Very moddable, those Kowloons. You know what makes a ship, Earth Clan? It's the engines. I don't mean to brag, but the Borecat Combine produces wonderful engines. Perhaps you'd like to examine a ship with such an engine? Now, I'm hardly one to judge, Earth Clan, but you appear quite virile. I believe you could use a shuttle with seating for many bulbous children.
Now, we and our yet-to-come bulbous children will not buy a used spaceship. Instead, we'll leave, thoroughly confused I might add, and we'll have a look at the food options available down here.
This what passes for food out here. My tastes run more along the lines of edible. Looks like worms. Dead ones. This a human thing? Ugh, I'll pass. I'll eat almost anything, but I stress almost.
You ever had ramen? It's a delicacy back on Earth. What can I get you? The meat isn't fresh out here, but you won't find any better dried seaweed on the station. We have 6 kinds of beer on tap. We don't have a karaoke machine anymore. You do not want to hear drunk Elcor sing.
And we can now follow things up with another advertisement, one that also ranks high among my favorites.
Available smiles, your songs, your flashes of merriment that were wont to set the table on a roll.
And don't forget to catch Elcor Hamlet Live, an unforgettable 14-hour experience.
In sincere endorsement, you have not experienced Shakespeare until you have heard him in the voice of Elcor.
Good, now with all of that taken care of, time for a bit of information, and of course the best source for that is once again Avina.
Welcome. The Zakera Ward Marketplace provides shopping and storage space for the less privileged residents of the station.
And less privileged is a good point. In Mass Effect 1 we didn't really experience poor districts, rather outright shady ones, at least when it comes to the Citadel, so this right here might be a bit of a novelty.
This area looks a little run down. I take it the people here aren't very well off?
Inhabitants of the wards typically have less income than those in the Presidium.
Now, this is of course not entirely surprising. It would be stupid to assume that the Citadel was rich from top to bottom, but then again it does have a fairly prosperous, sometimes even utopian image.
And here I thought the Citadel was some sort of utopia.
The recorded histories of all sapient species suggest that in every society, resources are not evenly split between members.
And even though we're talking to a VI, maybe she has something in her programming regarding how to possibly fix this problem.
There must be some way to solve the problem.
Asari futurists believe poverty cannot be eliminated without cornucopia technology, which will create anything the user desires. Such technology is unknown outside of science fiction literature.
Sloppy thinking. Society grows by pushing against limitations.
Now, unfortunately, we cannot continue this conversation, even though it seems like Morden has some interesting thoughts on it. Instead, we can now talk about the more tangible properties of the district. For example, the presence of warehouses in what is supposed to be a shopping area.
Why are there warehouses in the middle of a shopping district?
This area is close to Zakera Ward's keel docking station. Freighters attach there to load passengers and supplies. Goods are stored locally until they can be distributed within the ward or transported off the station. However, CSEC recommends that visitors exercise caution, as these short-term warehouses are often used to move illegal goods.
Well, interesting. Sounds like we could get ourselves involved into something there. To wrap things up though, let's also ask about what's for sale legally.
What sort of things are sold here?
The Certa Foundation, a medical technology group from the Alliance, has an outlet store. Saranus Applications offers professional software.
Okay, sounds like 2 spots to check out, so let's get going.
That's all for now.
Thank you for using Avina. Have a pleasant day.
This Clanless is a thief, and I want her arrested.
What? I was just walking by.
Well, looks like we have encountered a bit of a situation here. Let's see if we can be of assistance.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to take a statement here.
There's nothing to talk about. She stole my credit chit. Arrest her.
I did not! Just because I'm a Quarian!
I need you to stop and take a deep breath.
You're mocking me, Earth Clan. Just because the Vol Clan need...
It was a poor choice of words, sir. I apologize.
Right, so the Volus here is accusing the Quarian of theft, and since the CSEC officer does not really seem to have a hold of the situation, let's jump in here and start with the accuser.
You say she stole your credit chit?
She must have. When I left the Certa Foundation store, she ran right into me.
Now, I don't really see the connection yet, but maybe he cares to explain a bit further.
How does running India mean she stole your credit chit?
That's how pickpockets work. They bump into you and use that as a cover for rifling your pockets. You can't turn your back on these clanless Quarians. Thieves, all of them.
Now, of course, another possible explanation would be that he simply left his chit at the store, so maybe we should mention that as well.
Are you sure you didn't leave your chit at the Certa Foundation?
Of course not. You think I'd make a mistake like that? I didn't even buy anything there. That chit stayed in my pocket.
Okay, now that's his side of the story. Let's see what the Quarian has to say to defend herself.
You say you're falsely accused?
I was walking to the used ship dealer when he barged into me outside the Certa Foundation. He didn't stop or say he was sorry. A minute later, he runs up with CSEC and accuses me of stealing his damn chit.
So it seems to be confirmed at least that these two did in fact run into each other, and maybe that was also the reason the chit got lost, but not necessarily because she stole it.
You ran into each other outside the Certa Foundation. Is it possible the chit fell out of his pocket there?
I guess. Sure, all I know is I didn't take it.
Now, she also mentioned the used chip dealer, and remember he talked to us earlier, and so we can ask a slightly more personal question though, which admittedly has nothing to do with the investigation.
Do you spend a lot of time at the used chip dealer?
Yeah, they've got a lot of nice models. I'd like to buy one and take it back to the fleet, but...
From our time with Tali, we know that this is probably a good thing for the flotilla, so let's encourage her and spread a bit of positivity.
A ship would make a great pilgrimage gift.
You know about the pilgrimage?
I traveled with a Quarian who was on hers.
Wow. I didn't know anyone here would do that for one of us.
If all else fails, at least we have now increased our standing with the Quarian, but let's make sure we get a bit more out of this. After all, there is a CSEC officer present.
Do you know who's telling the truth?
My Omni tool can tell the Quarian doesn't have a chit on her, but she could have stashed it to recover later. You know what Quarians are like, and she's definitely a vagrant. I'll run her in and see what Bailey wants to do with her.
And it seems like we have a minor case of prejudice here, which might not necessarily bode well for the Quarian, so it might not be a bad thing to start looking around a bit for ourselves.
I'll see if I can find out what happened.
Sir, this is a CSEC matter. We'll do all we can to resolve this. We don't need civilian help. If you do happen to find the chit, please let one of our officers know.
Let's go.
Be careful out there.
Wouldn't a refreshing, delicious Tupari sports drink hit the spot right now?
Right, over here we have a small warehouse that we don't need to enter at the moment. There is absolutely nothing in there that we can interact with at the moment, and we will return here at a later point in the game anyway. Instead, we can now pay a visit to the Certa Foundation, maybe to find the chit, or if not, then at least to buy something.
Good day, citizen. Welcome to the Certa Foundation outlet on Zakera Ward.
And again, the usual options present themselves, but before we talk business, let's ask about the Volus' credit chit.
A Volus was in here not too long ago. Did he drop a credit chit?
And not that I saw. He didn't purchase anything.
Okay, so that option is off the table, but that should not keep us from looking around a bit, and let's begin by learning a bit more about the store itself.
Tell me about your store.
The Certa Foundation is a human organization known for its genetic therapy regimens and genetically engineered products. Certa is probably best known for the development of Metagel.
And that certainly sounds like they have things we can use, and I assume any transactions will once again be handled by the catalog.
I'd like to buy something.
Purchases are made through our catalog interface. It's over there.
And once again, we can also ask about her role in the store. After all, apart from answering questions, she's not doing much.
If everything's done by catalog, why are you here?
Customer service, returns, exchanges, and group rates. We also find that sales are better when there's someone to personally interact with. Though I'm not sure why a human company exclusively hires Asari to work their stores.
Yes, that sure seems like an interesting coincidence, however not one that we will investigate any further. Instead, let's get ourselves 5 more Paragon points and another store discount.
I couldn't help but notice your prices. They seem a bit steep.
With respect, the Foundation is not concerned with profits. A portion of our sales funds research to cure genetic diseases.
You know what would make your services more popular? An endorsement from the man who defeated Saren.
Oh my! You're Shepard, aren't you? I would be glad to give you my employee discount if you would do that for us.
It's a deal.
Just speaking to my console here.
I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite store on the Citadel.
I'll work it into our advertising at once. Thank you.
Alright then, let's browse and see what's for sale, and we are kicking things off with a Metagel capacity upgrade, which we can purchase for the rather luxurious price of 25,000 credits.
Now what's this?
Still, it will be worth it, because buying this upgrade will also unlock another one to be researched. For a slightly cheaper price, we then also grab the life support webbing, an armor upgrade that provides us with a substantial health boost, and one that could be paired up with the Aegis vest we bought earlier to drastically increase Shepard's survivability.
What do you think, Michael? Maybe the immunobooster? It's supposed to help with alien bacteria.
We can get whatever you'd like for little Jake, Rebecca.
Wait, the immunobooster can delay muscle development in high-gravity environments. What if that hurts him?
And that's it, time to listen to another advertisement.
Shepard, we know times are tough. Station records show that you made only 0 credits last year. If you need something to get you to your next paycheck on error, date not found, Ledcor's Pawn and Payday Loan can help. We offer you credit on the spot for personal and home electronic devices, precious metals and jewels, genetic assay data, and virtual intelligences. No credit check, no questions asked. All we need is your citizenship ID. Come down today.
Alright, and that leaves us with only one single store remaining, and that would be Saronis Applications.
Welcome to Saronis Applications. Can I interest you? Ah, Shepard!
Do I know you?
No, but I know you. Even a senile Hanar would remember the human who fought off the Geth. I thought you were dead.
Yeah, I've been getting that a lot.
Please, look around the store. It's a pleasure to have you here.
And we will also first ask about the credit chit. Maybe, despite the store never being mentioned, it somehow ended up here.
A Volus was in here not too long ago. Did he drop a credit chit?
Oh, yes. He bought some environmental system drivers, then left without his chit. I didn't notice he'd left until he was already gone. If you see him, tell him I have it here behind the counter.
Well, looks like that case is solved. Time to get down to business.
I'd like to buy something.
Oh, it's all automated these days. There's a catalog interface over there.
And one last time we will now ask this dreaded question, because yeah, it seems awfully boring to be working in a store where you don't actively sell anything.
If everything's automated, why are you here?
Customer service. Sweeping out the store, carefully explaining things to the technologically illiterate. It's stunning how many people think that light moves faster through expensive fiber optic cables than it does through cheap ones.
Okay then, here we are, time to increase our Paragon score even further and to drop prices down to a slightly more affordable level.
You know, I use quite a bit of software in my line of work.
It's a shame so few understand their own equipment. Besides the most obvious point-and-go nav interfaces anyway.
You wouldn't believe how often I hear, "Why's the ship turning around? We're only halfway there."
Oh, I would.
You know, I like your products. Any interest in an endorsement from the human who defeated Saren?
I'd be thrilled, but I don't think I could afford to pay you for it.
Don't worry about it. What if we just work out a discount?
Absolutely. Just speak into my console here.
I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite store on the Citadel.
That will be splendid. I can edit that and have it working right away. Thank you so much.
Now, as we fire up the catalog, we can see there is nothing we can buy at the moment. Both the tech damage and the damage protection upgrade are way too expensive for us at this point, so we'll have to get them later when we return with a bit more cash. For now, though, we have obtained some information regarding the Volus' credit chit, and I'm sure he'll be delighted to hear that it's just around the corner.
I felt her hand go into my pocket. When I checked, my credit chit was gone.
I didn't even touch you.
Please move along.
Well, not so fast. We have something that might speed things up here, and hopefully it will solve the whole situation.
You forgot your credit chit at Saronis Applications. The clerk is holding it for you.
Oh. Well, the Quarian could have stolen it.
I'll close this event report, but I'll be watching you. Get a permanent residence, or I'll run you in for vagrancy.
Are you two serious?
What?
You falsely accused this girl of stealing from you. All you have to say now is that she could have stolen it?
Now, just a minute.
And you? She gets harassed and insulted by this guy, and you throw in a threat to arrest her for vagrancy?
How about if I run you in for obstruction of justice?
You think you're gonna run in a former Spectre? I think both of you should get out of here.
Son of a...
Thank you. I wish I could give you something more than words.
Right, so that Paragon interruption earned us an additional 5 Paragon points, and I feel like it was justified to some extent, but unfortunately it also sounded like this was not an isolated incident for the Quarian, so let's make sure that she will be alright.
Can you take care of yourself from here?
I guess. I mean, most nights I eat nutrient paste in the Turian shelter, but I'm surviving. Thanks.
We earn 5 more Paragon points for completing the mission, resulting in a total of 10. We also get 40 XP and 1000 credits, and with that it is time for the grand finale. Conveniently enough, we have shuttle access to the rapid transport system right here, and since we have thoroughly explored levels 26 to 28 and also cannot access the factory district at the moment, there is only one location for us to travel to, and that would be the Presidium.
This meeting would be more productive if Udina was to join us.
Councilor Udina isn't available, but as his top advisor, I speak with his full authority and approval. Shepard will be here and... Oh, Commander. We were just talking about you.
And even though our presence here is of course a direct reply to Anderson's message, let us be a bit more friendly than that. After all, it has been a long, long time.
It's been a long time, Anderson. I hope the last couple of years have treated you right.
There have been some rough spots. It's good to have you back.
We've heard many rumors surrounding your unexpected return. Some of them are unsettling.
We called this meeting so you could explain your actions, Shepard. We owe you that much. After all, you saved our lives in the battle against Saren and his Geth.
Now, this of course brings us to the actual reason we're here. Our visit is of course motivated by more than to just catch up with Anderson. After all, there are collectors about, and the help of the Council could go a long way.
The collectors are abducting human colonists in the Terminus systems. Worse, we think they're working for the Reapers.
The Terminus systems are beyond our jurisdiction. Your colonists knew this when they left Council space.
You're missing the important part, Counselor. The Reapers are involved.
Ah yes, Reapers. The immortal race of sentient starships allegedly waiting in dark space. We have dismissed that claim.
Shepard, no one else encountered the hologram on Ilos that told you the truth about the Reapers. Only you and your crew ever spoke with Sovereign. I believe you. But without evidence from another source, the others think Saren was behind the Geth attacks.
Now we have two arguments to make here. I doubt they'll convince the Council, but let's try anyway, because at least we know that Saren was not the main antagonist 2 years prior.
Saren was an organic. The Geth would never accept him as their leader. They only followed him because he was Sovereign's agent.
Saren was a compelling and charismatic individual. He convinced the Geth the Reapers were real, just as he convinced you.
It was part of his plan to attack the Citadel. The Reapers are just a myth, one you insist on perpetuating.
We believe that you believe it, but that doesn't make it true.
Well, regarding that whole proof thing, there was also the Prothean VI back on Ilos, as well as Sovereign's wreckage right here on the Citadel.
Go back to Ilos and talk to Vigil. Or just look at what's left of Sovereign. It's obvious the technology is more advanced than ours.
The hologram on Ilos is no longer functional, and we have found nothing to suggest that Sovereign was not a Geth creation.
The Geth are capable of remarkable technological achievements. This is probably why Saren recruited them.
This Reaper theory proves just how fragile your mental state is. You have been manipulated. By Cerberus, and before them, by Saren.
Okay, it seems like there is no reasoning with the Council, which is of course frustrating, and even though it seems like there is not much we can do here at the moment, we could at least let them know our frustration.
I kept Saren from conquering the Citadel. I sacrificed human lives to save this Council.
We are in a difficult position, Shepard. You are working for Cerberus, an avowed enemy of the Council. This is treason, a capital offense.
That's too far. Shepard is a hero. If Councilor Udina were here, he wouldn't let this whitewash continue.
Maybe there is a compromise. Not a public acknowledgement given your ties, but something to show peripheral support.
Shepard, if you keep a low profile and restrict your operations to the Terminus systems, the Council is willing to offer you reinstatement as a Spectre.
Well, reinstatement, that doesn't sound too bad, but before we jump in, let's make sure it doesn't come with any hidden strings attached.
What does that mean? Will I need to start filing reports?
That won't be necessary. This is a show of good faith on our part.
We cannot become involved in an investigation regarding the missing colonies in the Terminus systems, but Spectre reinstatement shows our support of you personally.
Now, since there are no morality points to be had here, I don't think we'll need to be overly polite. It is a nice offer considering our sudden reappearance, but we're also not going to kiss up to anyone just because they offer us a status that is rightfully already ours.
I accept your offer.
Good luck with your investigation, Shepard. We hope for a quick resolution and a quick end to your relationship with Cerberus.
Well, that went better than expected. You realize the Council's offer is just symbolic. They won't actually do anything.
And yes, from what we've heard, it definitely seems like that. Still, despite them declining their help now, we probably should not make an enemy out of them either.
Even if they don't help, I might as well stay on good terms.
True enough. Don't worry about the Council or the Alliance. I'll find some way to keep them off your back. Shouldn't be too hard. As long as you keep to the Terminus systems.
Anderson, we need to talk about... Shepard. What are you doing here?
Okay, this might be a good time to cover our tracks a bit. It doesn't look like he knows that we just talked to the council, so yeah, we're just visiting.
Stop by to see how Anderson was doing.
You don't have to cover for me. I invited Shepard here to speak with the council. We just finished our meeting.
You went to the council behind my back. Do the words political shitstorm mean anything to you?
And before things escalate even further here, let's calm everyone down again. After all, that seems to be kind of what we've been doing these last 15 minutes. And in the end, even though we didn't get any help, the meeting went better than expected.
The council reinstated my Spectre status. They're just happy I'm staying out in the terminus systems.
Yes, I could see how that arrangement works best for both sides. But you still had no right to do this without my knowledge. Maybe it's time the Alliance found me a new advisor.
And we will also try to suppress that chain of thought almost immediately, because contrary to Udina, Anderson might play a very important role for us going forward.
Anderson took an impossible situation and turned it into a win for both sides.
You can say you knew all along, or you can explain to the Alliance how you want to replace me for doing your job.
You don't leave me much choice, but I know this game. I'll tell the other councilors I'm on board.
And once again, no morality points are waiting, so we might as well bid farewell with a snide remark.
Better hurry. Fickle bunch. Quick to forget their friends.
Goodbye, Shepard. I hope you'll go back to the terminus systems soon. It would be better for all concerned.
What an ass. As bad as Udina was before, he's 10 times worse now that he's part of the council. Better him than me, though. And he's done a good job promoting Alliance interests with the Citadel.
And while, at least for the moment, I would agree that Udina is, despite his flaws, a bit better suited for the task, yes, there is a thing or two he could learn from Anderson.
You haven't forgotten how you got here. The rest of them, they're buried in procedure.
Some of that is necessary. This place, the scale of it, doesn't hit you even when you're standing in it. But crack the files on interspecies relations, there's no end. We don't need an outside threat, Shepard. The balance here seems like it's fragile enough.
Well, that doesn't exactly sound like things are overly pleasant at the moment, so maybe Anderson's decision to stay here was not the right one after all.
How have the last couple of years treated you?
Working for Udina isn't how I planned to spend my twilight years. Sometimes it feels like I'm just beating my head against a wall. Knowing the truth about Sovereign is brutal. It's nightmare stuff. I can't blame others for not wanting to believe it, but I know how important it is. So I keep trying. Fighting the good fight, right?
And indeed, he seems far from satisfied with his current work, so maybe a place on board of a ship simply suits him a whole lot better.
Forget Udina and the Council. Join my crew and help me stop the Collectors.
I'm too old to go racing across the galaxy. Much as I complain, I've got an important job to do here. The front line. That's got to be yours.
And speaking of that front line, for all we know, we are still fighting against the remnants of the Geth invasion, and I suppose Anderson can tell us a bit more about how that fight is going.
Last I knew, we were still fighting holdouts.
Here and there. But they are increasingly disorganized. It's long since stopped being called a war. More like cleanup. Not that you can ever discount them. But we haven't had serious casualties for months. A civilian ship will spot an enclave and we send in a squad to clear it. They're not quite the boogeymen they used to be.
Right, some good news at last, and maybe some more coming up right away, because once again the Citadel seems to have recovered very nicely.
How long did it take to get this place back up to speed after the battle?
Still counting. The main areas of commerce and the most populated wards are complete. But estimates for total restoration are sitting around 5 years. The Keepers always surprise us, though. It's like our repairs are annoying. We'll put up an ugly new bulkhead, and in a few days, they've made it seamless. We never really thought of them as heavy lifters, and I have no idea where they get the resources. But we'd never get done without them.
Now, earlier the councilors mentioned that the remains of Sovereign were not enough to identify it as anything else than a Geth ship, which of course begs the question how thorough that investigation actually was.
I'm surprised no one can tell Sovereign isn't Geth technology. Didn't they examine the wreckage?
We don't have much to look at. Pieces of it rained all over the station. It was chaos, with who knows how many species combing the wards for their dead. We secured as much of it as we could. But between the Keepers and a whole lot of unauthorized salvage, there's no way to account for even half of that thing. Another reason why they don't want to acknowledge what Sovereign was.
And yes, that indeed sounds like they actually fear what would happen if the Reaper threat became a reality. Now, one last question before we leave. We learned very early in this playthrough that Kaidan Alenko is still alive, so maybe Anderson can tell us a bit more about him as well.
What happened to Staff Lieutenant Alenko after the Normandy was destroyed?
Staff Commander Alenko is still with the Alliance, but he's working on a special mission. It's classified. I can't say any more. Not while you're working with Cerberus, I'm sorry.
And very fittingly, this also brings this conversation to an end, with us somewhere in the middle between Cerberus, the Alliance, the Council, and of course the Collector and Reaper threat.
I better go.
Of course, Shepard, I understand. I wish I could do more to help you, but if you ever want to talk, I'll be here. Just do me a favor and be careful. You can't trust Cerberus.
Before we leave though, let's listen in to one more piece of news.
The attack on the human colony of Freedom's Progress has generated a swift but confused response. Aid vessels have been sent, but it is not clear whether there are survivors. The Council offered its sympathy, but regretted that it could not become involved in a purely human matter.
And here we have it confirmed through the official channels. The Council is refusing to help, and with that our trip to the Citadel remains at least partially unsuccessful. However, at least for the moment, our business here is concluded, so let's return to the good old Normandy. And here we are with a true behemoth of an episode behind us. It took me quite a while to get this done, but then again I'm happy that we're now ready for new adventures in the next episode, for which I also already have a plan. I don't want to spoil too much, but I will say this much: we will once again delay the recruitment of the next squad member a bit further. So, new adventures coming up soon. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this episode, then I would be happy if you could leave a thumbs up. And of course, if you want to support the channel further, then you can either subscribe if you haven't already, or you can also check out and maybe pledge to the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.